And now it's time for the ABCs by Admiral Akbar.
It's a nap. It's a burlap.
If you're happy and you know it.
It's a clap. It's a dap. I can't think of anything for the letter E. In fact, we probably shouldn't get our hopes up for the rest of the vowels Q or X either. Oh well. It's a frap. Is that good? Mm-hmm. Sweet. It's a gap. It's a crap.
We already did C.
It's a hap. Due to race relations and perceived race relations in this great nation of ours, we will forego using the letter J for this. We will now proceed with the letter K.
We don't have anything for K.
We will now proceed with the letter L. It's a lap. It's a map. It's a nap. It's a pap.
Drop that beat. So here we go now to the next letter. Of all the other words, there could be none better. We gotta find the word that rhymes with trap. So here we go once again. It's a rap. If you're happy and you know it.
It's a slap. That was a good one.
That really hurt. So, what do you want to do for T?
It's a trap!
That'll work.
Yeah.
It's a vap.
It says vape.
5 people are gonna see this. It's a wrap. It's a yap. It's a... It's a trap. You were trapped into watching a review after a goofy segment at the beginning. Yeah. That's how we roll. That's how we're gonna roll. All right, so welcome to Method Living Productions. We're doing a movie stuff now. We did Baby Driver before, I did La La Land before, but I think now we're gonna start getting into a full swing of movies and content coming out. We're gonna start this time with Star Wars: The Last Jedi. And just for an introduction, I am Chris Adams.
And I'm Robert Adams. And first of all, I would like to state to our viewers, hi Mom, hi Dad. Please make sure Aunt Jane sees this and Grandma Hopkins. You know, make sure they're sharing it with their bridge club.
All right. So the way this review is going to work is we're going to do it. Basically, we're going to do the non-spoiler stuff in the front, and then we'll give you a warning when we're going to get into some spoiler talk, because you can't talk about this movie without getting into a little bit of the spoiler talk too. So we're going to do a little bit of that on the back end, give you a fair warning. If you haven't seen the movie yet, you'll know when to turn off the video and come back. I'm just fishing for more views, really.
Yes.
Anyway, Star Wars: The Last Jedi. As you can see, we're rolling the trailer back here. You've probably seen it. Hopefully you've seen the movie by now, if you're going to stick around. But otherwise, we're going to give you our thoughts and let you know whether or not you should see it. Right off the bat, it's a Star Wars movie. Go see it.
Yeah. You've seen all the other ones.
It's a Star Wars movie, and it's not the animated Clone Wars movie, so go see it.
Yeah. Probably the first thing I will mention that I think is necessary for this, and it's kind of like we were saying that it's kind of hard to talk about this movie without getting into the spoilers. The movie's writing, everything for it was pretty well done. The fact that you can't talk about this movie without getting into the spoilers, I would say that's a pretty good description of a very well written movie. You can't sit there and say like, well, this happened without completely like ruining someone's ability to enjoy it.
I would say this is probably the most philosophical Star Wars yet.
Yes.
There's a lot in there that's just really I'm gonna have to see it again. I'm gonna have to see it again. There's no doubt about that. It's just a matter of when. But there's a whole lot of symbolism, a lot of this, that, and the other, and I don't know if you've seen any other reviews out on YouTube, but I think everyone's pretty much in agreement. There's a lot to take in.
Say the plus side, cinematography was absolutely beautiful. Just some of the shots that were done with this movie was absolutely amazing.
All the worlds looked pretty real, except for maybe one, but I'll save that talk.
Yeah. Acting was phenomenal. I think Mark Hamill was definitely back into a good Luke Skywalker element, especially since we really didn't see him act in The Force Awakens. Mm-hmm. This time we actually get to see the character that is Luke Skywalker now more fleshed out, and it was really good. That saying, I would also say Rey, Daisy Ridley, was a huge standout in this. Much more compelling in how she acted and what she was trying to achieve, essentially, in this movie. Speaking of Rey.
Yeah, and then that's the big thing is a lot of people, and I agree with them, are saying that Luke Skywalker stole the show. Well, Mark Hamill is at the top of his career in this movie. Like, this is the best acting I've ever seen from Mark Hamill, not counting voice acting.
Not including the Joker.
But also the other standouts were, as others are saying, Rey and Kylo Ren. The two of them and their dynamic and their story is fantastic.
Yeah. I do feel like there were some negatives to this. The runtime is really long, and there was a lot that they cram into this. Was it like over 2 hours?
Yeah.
2 hour long movie.
It's like 2.5 hour long movie.
They said this was the longest one out of all the Star Wars movies. So there was just a lot of stuff to compress in there.
There was some stuff that they definitely could have cut out.
Yeah.
That could have shaved down some of the time, but.
And I think a lot of my more negative stuff is a lot of spoiletry type of, like, it's hard to go into without spoiling it. I guess overall, like we said, it's a Star Wars movie. You've seen all the others. You're gonna go see this one. So go see it. It's still an enjoyable movie. It doesn't have Jar Jar Binks in it. So I mean, it's watchable. It's still a good movie.
There's no Jar Jar. There's no Ewoks.
There are porgs.
There are porgs.
There's a lot of porg in this movie.
I like the porgs. Anyway, there are porgs in this movie. They're not Jar Jar or the Ewoks, but they're fairly enjoyable. I laughed. I chuckled. They were fun. They don't really take too much time or steal the show too much. They're just there. The new girl who's hanging out with Finn, Rose Tico, her character is good. She's a nice another strong female character, and they want to do a lot of like strong female characters in these movies now, and so she's another example of a stronger of a character than Phasma is. Anyway, Holdo, what's her name?
I don't remember. Laura Dern.
Laura Dern. I'm not remembering any of the actresses' names right now. That's a problem. But
it's Dr. Ellie Sattler.
Yes, Dr. Ellie Sattler from Jurassic Park. Her character, I think a lot of people had reservations about her character and the type of character that she was, and then those reservations were answered without saying too much. Her character was fantastic. I enjoyed her character. There's some things about her that I want to know more about, though, that they didn't really go into in this movie, and so I'm kind of going to go on to the Googles and try to find out what's the backstory to her character a little bit more.
And then there was DJ Benicio del Toro.
Yeah.
It's really hard to, I guess, get into his character and his dynamic without spoiling it as well.
His character is a big plot point, so.
But I mean, fantastic job.
Channeling his inner Brad Pitt.
He definitely, both me and him at the same time were both looking at he looks, sounds, and is acting exactly like Brad Pitt. It's almost as if they tried to get Brad Pitt first. They couldn't. Apparently, they also tried getting Joaquin Phoenix for that role, and he wasn't available. So then they went to Benicio del Toro and told him, okay, here's your motivation. You're Brad Pitt.
I think the visual effects wise, fantastic. Each of the planets, I can't remember where the Rebel base was located, but you saw that one in Force Awakens, and so they were all, they did a brief bit there, but...
there was that planet, there was Crate, which is the one that you see in the trailer with the white and red as the ships are all flying. There's Octu, which was thank you. Which was shown in Force Awakens, which is also gorgeous. Apparently that's actually, was it Michael Skelling off of the coast of Ireland? Looks really gorgeous. And then, most of the rest of it was in space, so it's still good cinematography.
And then there's Canto Bight, but we'll...
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about Canto Bight in a minute. Yeah. But for the most part, what would I give this movie? So I was asked actually by another friend where I rank it amongst all the rest of the Star Wars movies, and I had to actually think for a minute. And after thinking about it, I would put it at probably 5th place. It doesn't pass the original trilogy at all. Mm-hmm. The original trilogy is still the best.
Not even Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, and I think at least one of the prequels, probably Revenge of the Sith, passes it still. Outside of that, I think, for my opinion, I think Force Awakens and then Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, all three of those come after it somewhere. So I would place it in probably about 5th. We're not counting Rogue One because we're talking about the main series here.
I would probably agree with that. I would probably place the Force Awakens before this one. But I mean, it's pretty close. It's like right after that. I would place Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace after this one.
And that's not to say that it's a bad movie at all, because I know there's a lot of stigma around the prequels, but it is to say that we're talking about Star Wars, and for someone who's a fan of all of the movies, prequels and original trilogy, it's really hard to say like, hey, this one's really good, but it's also not as good as the others. The others are better, but it's all still Star Wars. I still like all of it, and so even though it's kind of 5th, even though it's down the line a little bit, I still liked it. I still thought it was great, and I still want to see it again and own it and all that, because it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the spoilers a little bit, and I know there's some characters we haven't talked about, but we'll talk about them now because of the spoilers that surround. Spoiler.
All spoilers will be revealed. Right off the bat, Snoke was a hairless clone of Chewbacca. Didn't see that one coming. Still didn't see that one coming because that one actually didn't happen. But if it did, that would have been a spoiler that you would have thought you just heard if you hadn't seen the movie. So just to let you know, spoilers are coming.
That could be a spoiler for episode 9. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
And that's because right off the top,
who knows what's going on in episode 9?
Who knows what's going on in episode 9? But really, who knows who Snoke is?
Yeah. They killed him. We didn't get a single answer. Nothing.
He's this big Force user, like super powerful guy. Like you can see the amount of power. He's just like snaps his fingers. There's lightning everywhere. But who is he?
I don't know. They Darth Mauled him. They cut him in half. He's gone by. No more Snoke.
Yeah, I mean the rule. So the rule for dead people is if you see a body, then you know they're dead. We saw a body,
and then we saw the other half over there.
We saw a body for a very long time.
Yeah.
His body was lying there for a long time.
He's dead.
Who is he, though? Maybe somewhere in the backlogs of the canon, written somewhere on the internet or in a book somewhere, they'll describe who he is or where he came from. But for the main movie-going audience, we don't know. But that does bring an interesting dynamic to his character in regards to this relationship with Kylo Ren that I thought was really interesting. And it is something I looked into interviews that Rian Johnson, the director, has done about this, and he's talked about how much it would just completely cut the situation if he just popped up and said, "Yeah, I'm Darth Plagueis," and Rey would be like, "Who?" Because Darth Plagueis means nothing to Rey.
And most of the audience would be like, "Who?"
Oh, call back to episode 3. Oh, that's the guy that Palpatine was talking about to Anakin back in episode 3. Do you remember that scene? It was the bubble opera.
No, nobody remembers that scene.
It was Palpatine's master. Palpatine was the one who killed him. Yeah, anyway, I personally would have really liked that, but I understand what he's saying, that it would really cut that scene up, and it would mean nothing to the characters in the scene.
It would be complete fan service, and that's it.
And that'd be about it. But it does mean that now we have a new dynamic with Kylo Ren, where he's no longer the henchman, so to speak, to the main bad guy. He now is the main bad guy.
Yeah.
He's now on his own, doing everything on his own.
Supreme Leader Kylo Ren.
Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, which is a mouthful.
Yes.
But it does set up an interesting dynamic for his character going into Episode 9, which I'm actually looking forward to seeing now.
The next big spoiler that I thought it was interesting. So basically, going into this movie, it seemed everybody, ourselves included, we basically had two questions: who's Snoke, and where did Rey come from? So, like I said, really didn't find out anything about Snoke, and I guess we never will. So, whatever. We don't know anything about Finn either, except he was a stormtrooper and was taken away from his family. So that's all we need to know, I guess. Rey, on the other hand, everybody went into this movie wanting to know, is Rey a Skywalker? Is she a Solo? She's got to be related to someone. She may also be a hairless clone of Chewbacca. Who knows? And even throughout this movie, there's a bunch of times where they're about to show you, and you're on the edge of your seat, and nothing. And finally, supposedly Kylo Ren, who I wouldn't say is a premier authority, maybe a very trustworthy narrator at this point on it, but he reveals to her that really her parents were a bunch of nobodies, that they sold her off just so they could go buy some booze, and that's it. So I'm kind of conflicted on that, just because I was expecting this big build-up. I was expecting or hoping for like the Empire Strikes Back, I am your father, epic level, jaw-dropping reveal, something that would have been cool. And we didn't get that. We just got that, well, her parents were just plain ordinary people. But on the second hand, that was actually really good, because before the movie I was thinking, well, if she turns out to be related to Luke Skywalker, it's kind of a cop-out. If she's related to the Solos, that's still kind of a cop-out. In fact, if she's related to almost anybody in this movie, it really would feel like a cop-out. Like, yeah, of course she would be related to R2-D2 or something.
Well, and the reason for that is because they set up that, J.J. Abrams set up that mystery in The Force Awakens. Like, if that mystery wasn't set up, if they just told you right from the bat, hey, this is Luke's estranged daughter, we wouldn't have this issue right now. We'd be like, okay, we can accept that. We're fine with that. We're cool with Luke having a daughter. You know, we don't. You know, we'll get a little bit of that story, I'm sure. But because they had to set up the mystery, now we're all wondering, who does Rey come from? Rey comes from nobody. My opinion on that is, the more I think about it, the more I like it. Initially, I did want her to be related, because the story of Star Wars is the story of the Skywalker line. Yeah. That is carrying through right now with Kylo, even though he is the villain and not necessarily the main character, the hero. What they're doing with it now, though, is that they're taking Star Wars, and I think they're now opening up the universe. Now that we're in the third trilogy of the quote-unquote Skywalker storyline, we're opening it up to the universe and saying, okay, well, there's actually more going on than just the Skywalkers. We did that part. We knocked it out already. You know, Darth Vader, Anakin, he was the chosen one. He brought the balance to the Force at that time. You know, now we're saying, okay, well, how do we keep the Force in balance going forward? And that's going to take people who aren't necessarily part of the Skywalker bloodline. And this is to say, anybody could be special at any given point. We don't know who or where they're going to come from.
Yeah, especially given that Rey is a nobody, and she's now representing the light, and you've got someone that is a nephew of Luke Skywalker, so we are slowly detaching away from the Skywalker family at this point. So yeah, it seems like it's going to be a very good dynamic as to where they could potentially take this, especially since after this trilogy's over, Rian Johnson's already got signed up to do another trilogy of who knows what, from who knows where in the Star Wars timeline mythology he could go. So I mean, this could continue to expand beyond the core 9 episodes.
And a quick side note, just to double down on the whole Rey is nobody theory, like right at the end with that kid who uses the Force to grab his broom.
Yeah.
Who's that kid?
Yeah.
As far as we know, that kid's a nobody, you know?
And we may never see him again.
We might not see that kid again, but I have a feeling come episode 9, we're going to start seeing a lot more Force users. We're going to see maybe not necessarily the Jedi. You know, there was a whole lot of talk about, you know, is there space between light and dark? Is there a space for Force users to exist who aren't necessarily Jedis or Sith?
Well, it's like, what's his name in Rogue One?
Chirrut Imwe.
Is that Donnie Yen's
Donnie
character?
Yen's character,
The I am one with the Force and the Force is one with me.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't a Jedi, but he seemed to be Force sensitive. So there could be a lot more of those going on in the future as well.
Those of us who know, his midi-chlorian count was probably 3.
Yeah.
I like the prequels.
Yeah. So continuing on with this movie, I want to go back to like some of the stuff that we started talking about in the spoiler-free version. Cinematography. A couple of things come to mind as far as the cinematography. When Admiral Holdo just light speeds the ship through. Oh, that was absolutely gorgeous.
Dead silence in the theater.
Silence, it was awe and amazing. It was a fantastic scene. That was one of the big standouts. The other one was the planet at the end that they're fighting on, the planet of Crate, that is basically covered in a layer of salt. It was beautiful. The fact that there's a layer essentially of salt on the ground and that the actual soil is this blood red. And my first thought was that they did it that way just to dissuade people from thinking like the planet was a living planet, like Ego or something.
Yeah.
So that there's not a bunch of people taking their kids going, this planet's bleeding. It is still a Disney movie. The Porgs are a very good sign that it is a Disney movie. So the cinematography of that planet is also absolutely gorgeous as well.
Now, I don't want to like run this on too long, but there's just a couple of things that we do want to hit on real quick. I want to hit on Princess Leia.
Yes.
So, what we know about Princess Leia is that she has a level of ability to use the Force as well. Maybe not as great as Luke, but
apparently she's been training to
we did get to see a little bit more about how much power she does have, and that means being able to save yourself when you're floating out in the middle of space.
Yeah.
Now, I will give my opinion on that real quick. Obviously, you know, with Carrie Fisher's passing last year, which is really sad, there was wonder about how they're going to handle Leia. What's going to be the dynamic going into Episode 9, because Episode 9 was supposed to heavily feature Leia. Well, now it can't.
Yes.
And so there's a moment in the movie where the deck gets shot at and explodes, and Leia gets sucked out into space. And initially, I was like, "Oh, they did not just do that. Oh, come on!
That is not the way to end."
That's so distasteful, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But then when they cut back to the scene later, and you saw her hand moving in space, I was like, "What is happening here?" I like it.
Flies in just.
I like it, but at the same time, it also felt kind of out of place. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's good. I think it's great that they saved her, but I also feel like this feels very Harry Potter-esque, you know. This is like,
and it looked
magic.
kind of Harry Potter-esque as well. But I believe that was actually in the movie before she passed. That was the way the movie was supposed to go. So the idea is that scene was just purely there just to show the audience, because we didn't see it in Force Awakens, that, yeah, she is the bloodline of Skywalker. She is the daughter of Anakin, the brother of Luke. She has Force-sensitive abilities. She just hasn't explored it, but she does have those abilities to tap into that, and I think that was a part of why they show that, just to let people know, just a quick nod.
And I am glad we got that, because obviously we're not going to get any more from her going into
No.
Episode 9, which is, again, really sad. But Let's see what else.
Best scene of the movie, in my opinion, the
Yeah.
thing that the whole movie could have been a rehash of Phantom Menace, and this one scene saved the entire movie, and that was when they brought back Yoda.
Yoda's
Absolutely
Force Ghost.
gorgeous, and I think that was actually not only did he look good, sound good, that whole scene was absolutely beautiful. That scene was the focal point of the whole movie. Like we're saying, there was a lot of philosophical stuff in there. The thing that Yoda talked about was that primarily, no matter how much of the Jedi text you read or anything, the number one thing that you learn from is your mistakes.
Your failures.
And what I liked about that is if you look at like almost all the major characters in this movie, they had a mistake. Poe got cocky with the trying to destroy the Dreadnought ship at the beginning and lost some of the bombers. Was it Leia? Can't remember if she actually made a mistake or if that was just an accident that happened to her. But all of them, I can't remember details, unfortunately.
Finn and Rose going off on their own. That whole thing amounted to nothing for them, and so that was
A mistake.
That was a mistake.
Yeah. The whole dynamic with Luke, he made a mistake in regards to judging Ben Solo too early. So that whole dynamic, just the movie was showcasing how many mistakes you learned from. So I thought it was very poignant.
Even going as far back as to say in the prequel trilogy, the Jedis themselves made a ton of mistakes. Luke even talked about it, letting Sidious rise to power, letting Palpatine come into power.
Which I love the fact that he actually did make a callback to Darth Sidious from the
Sidious,
prequels.
yeah.
And he didn't refer to him as Emperor Palpatine, so that was a nice little standout as well.
Stuff that ties everything together.
But yeah, Yoda was absolutely amazing. The best part of the movie, hands down. And that was, I've heard people talk about this before. That was a scene that you could tell was extremely pivotal in that if there was even a slight misstep on how it was done, it would have killed the whole movie.
And you can tell because they used the puppet Yoda instead of
they learned a lesson from the episode 1.
They learned from their failures.
Yeah.
I do want to briefly mention Canto Bight because I talked about it a little bit.
There was some funny things with it. I like the leprechaun putting the coins into BB-8, which by the way, the leprechaun guy was also voiced by Mark Hamill, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, putting the coins in BB-8, that was cute.
That was funny.
There were some cute scenes about that. But overall, I mean, by the time you get to the end of the movie, you realize that all of that was completely unnecessary. And I guess that kind of leads into...
Including DJ?
It leads into DJ. I mean, and what I've thought about is that Finn and Rose were sent there to find the Master Codebreaker. Mm-hmm. And they were supposed to be looking for the guy with the rose-looking lapel.
Yeah.
Justin Theroux's cameo, by the way. I actually don't think he was the Master Codebreaker. I think they were meant to look for him so they could get arrested and they meet the Master Codebreaker, who was DJ.
Who knows? Maz Kanata is very cryptic in a lot of things she talks about.
And unfortunately, they didn't use enough Maz Kanata in this. Just a brief glimpse on a screen, like, bye.
Yeah, we still have absolutely no idea how she got Anakin's lightsaber.
Yeah. So there was some good and bad on that scene. I think overall, one of my biggest complaints I think about this movie was there was a lot of comedy and weirdness in this movie. I liked the comedy, some of the humorous things. They were pretty humorous. They were good. I had a good chuckle on it, don't get me wrong. But that's not a Star Wars movie. I don't feel like the Star Wars movies are full of comedy.
Typically, no, they're not. There's usually a couple like 3 or 4 jokes in a movie, but this one's trying to take a little too much from the Marvel book, and
yeah. And I think that might be a part of like what Disney is like mucking around with it type of thing.
And that's the go back, like, you know, you look at the original trilogy, Han Solo was a very sarcastic character, and I think they're trying to put that in Poe as a spiritual successor, but at times it just feels like Poe's kind of dynamic in the interactions he has, it seems to kind of undercut the value of those scenes.
Poe's supposed to be like one of the best, if not the best, Rebel pilot, and he does come off in a very jokingly manner. In Force Awakens, he did the whole thing with Kylo, who goes first. I talk, you talk. In this one, he did that trolling General Hux, which absolutely hilarious.
It was hilarious.
It was a great scene, but it was just kind of weird. And then I can understand Poe being the Joker, but a lot of the other stuff, like on Octu, the milking scene.
Oh gosh, that was so unnecessary.
Because that's all the Star Wars needed was more milking teats.
That was not necessary at all.
No. And then the groundskeeper guys there too,
the caretakers.
The caretakers, yeah. As soon as I saw them, my first thought was that they looked like the Oompa Loompas from Willy Wonka.
Little reptilian frog Oompa Loompas.
Yeah, so I mean they were there for like comedy relief, and which part of the Porgs were too. I am happy that the Porgs were not really shoved in your face, with the exception of that one little comedy bit with Chewbacca, which was also pretty funny.
I kind of enjoyed that. I think that one was fine.
Yeah, but otherwise, the Porgs were just there. They didn't. I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent about the Porgs because I'm not a huge fan of the Star Wars marketing stuff with this.
Yeah.
Jar Jar, the Ewoks, all these are put in essentially to sell toys.
That's the only reason the Porg exists, is to sell toys. Let's be completely honest about that.
I mean, you go to a store now, Walmart, Toys R Us, Best Buy, there are Porg toys all over the place. I got a Porg Funko Pop bobblehead. They're everywhere. So
yeah. But speaking of the
Porgs,
there's one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's other aspects to talk about this movie. We could go into a whole long detail more and more about stuff.
Oh, poor Phasma. They killed off Phasma too. We were talking about this before, that every single like awesome Star Wars character just goes out like a punk.
Darth Maul, Boba Fett,
Phasma,
all these really cool looking characters,
just gone. And
now, yes, Darth Maul survived. If you don't watch Clone Wars or Rebels, then
technically, depending on how much of the extra stuff you read or
if you're just sticking to the movies, the Darth Maul died in Episode 1.
Yeah, so depending on how much of the other stuff you read, technically Boba Fett flew out of the Sarlacc pit too. So who knows?
Not sure
Phasma will probably come back as something or another.
Yeah.
Trying to see if they show anything else in the trailer that reminds me of it. The books were good. That joke that Yoda did with the page turner they are or whatever.
Yes, I love that.
Absolutely hilarious line. Yoda is good at like comedy stuff like that though, so that made sense. Beautiful scenes.
R2-D2 with the little callback to New Hope with Princess
Leia.
That
was awesome. That was also
Luke. That was a low.
Yes,
a low shot.
That was hilarious. Or not hilarious, but it was a really good scene.
It was a good scene, yeah. It's just good. I mean, I'm glad they keep an R2-D2 into it, even if they're not giving him a whole lot to do anymore.
Yeah. My overall opinion, yeah, the movie was kind of immediately when I left, I thought, well, it's a movie. It does drag on a bit. There's some cool parts to it, but it doesn't feel like it really pushed the envelope too much. I mean, we got the idea that now Kylo Ren is set up to be the big bad guy. There's very few rebels actually left, and they take off in the Millennium Falcon, and who knows what they're going to go do now. I'm guessing now that the plot line for the First Order is to go after the rebels, because now it's more personal for
Kylo Ren. Supreme Leader Kylo Ren.
I think the only other thing I feel like we need to touch upon is Luke. Luke's ending in this. Him sitting on that ledge
the twin suns
at Octu with watching the two sunsets, just like he did in A New Hope. Absolutely gorgeous.
Nice bookend.
Yeah, and then you just see like him from the back end, it just disappears. The cloak falls. You know he's become now one with the Force. It's great.
I really hope he's still in Episode 9, though. Even if it is just as a Force ghost, I will be happy with that.
Well, I mean, they brought Yoda back, so I mean, technically they could bring Luke back.
And Obi-Wan was in all of the original trilogy as
kind of
helping,
helping to train Luke as well. after he died in A New Hope. So yeah, hopefully we see Luke some more, especially since we're kind of running out of characters from the original trilogy to be in this movie. So I mean, unless Lando shows up all of a sudden for no reason, that's about it.
They really can't introduce Lando now. Everyone's dead.
Yeah, pretty much.
Who's Lando going to interact with?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I liked it. I thought it's a good movie. I thought it was great. I figured it's a worthy successor to Force Awakens. It's really does set me up, and I'm really excited to see where they're going to take the dynamic of the story in the ninth one.
Yeah, like I said, my thoughts and feelings, it's a movie. It was good. Again, I don't feel like this is anywhere near the top echelon of the Star Wars movies, or even like even the top of the movies of this year.
I think the great thing is that it doesn't have to be, though. At this point, they don't have to try to make the best Star Wars movie. They just have to make a good Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
And they'll get by, and it'll be great.
Yeah.
We'll
so, looking forward to the next one.
Yep.
And hopefully we'll be doing the review for that one as well. So.
Now, stay tuned to the channel. I know those of you who tuned out for spoilers, you won't catch this part, but stay tuned to the channel. We're going to be doing many more reviews. There's a lot of movies coming up in this month, so we're going to try to double down as much as possible and try to get as many of those reviews out as possible, and hopefully they won't run as long as this one, but Star Wars is Star Wars, let's be honest. It's going to run long. But yeah, stay tuned. We got some stuff in the works. We're going to be doing more. I think we got some series we're trying to think about. At some point, I'm going to get my vlogs going back up again. I got a couple vlogs I've been sitting on that to get out there. I got another video coming up. Yeah, Method Living. We're going to be taking off here pretty soon, and we'll get all this stuff get going and wrapped up and all that. Put a bow on it. Nice present to everybody watching.
So basically what he's trying to say is subscribe, share, like.
Do the YouTube things.
Yes.
All the YouTube things. You know how it works. You've watched YouTube.
Yes.
Come on. If you found my video, you've seen other YouTube videos. All right. I'm going to cut this now.
Okay. Bye.